her name?
Inca.
Inca. She's about 6 months, I understand?
Yep.
Yeah. How did you manage to afford her?
I work at a pet hotel. I started the job to afford my own dog, and 6 months later, here I am. So the training school is mainly based around pet obedience and social skills, for it's the vital parts for your dog. It doesn't focus on dog sports like competitive obedience or anything like that. It focuses on bringing you and your dog into a point where you can enjoy the outside world as a whole without worrying about dogs being scared of cars or people or other dogs, and then being able to be social. I help people who are struggling in the class, not grabbing concepts and things like that, and they need a little bit of help. So what I do is, the way the hall's built is we have a back room and a porch out the front. So I've got two options. So if a dog's on the right side, I can take it out the porchway, or I can take it out into the back room. So I'm not going to distract the other people in the class having to walk past them every single time a dog acts up. And also it'll depend on the degree they're struggling. If they're just struggling themselves and it's not actually the dog struggling, then I'll just simply talk to them in the class environment while the class carries on. However, if it's the dog struggling, the dog is causing a distraction, then we'll go out into the porch, we'll talk, give them tools that they can use to help keep the dog in a more controlled manner.
And when you say tools, what kind of tools would you be using?
So it depends on some dogs that maybe are a bit excited, teaching them to keep the dog's attention on them, not on the other dogs. Sometimes if mum and dad are in a class, mum might go over and talk to them, or dad might go over and talk to them. But if it was left to me, if dad was one-to-one and I had to help mum with the class, I would normally wait until an exercise had finished and then speak to them myself while they're at rest, and no dogs are moving around that can distract the owner or the dog they're working. So I might say to them they need to get their timing quicker or slower, or whatever's going on between them and the dog.
Early on this year at Crufts, you received a special award from the Guild of Dog Trainers. Can you tell me a little bit about that, and were you expecting it? What happened?
So when I went to Crufts, I expected to be almost like the way mum, dad and other trainers were the years before. I expected I'd go there, talk about the guild and explain to people and normal guild stuff. I didn't expect an award or anything like that, and as far as I'm aware, mum or dad didn't know or expect of it either, and it was quite sort of sprung upon and very immediate.
So it was a big surprise?
Yeah, big surprise. It consisted of an honorary membership to the Guild of Dog Trainers and a gift pack which consisted of a book, a hoodie and a few other small pieces.
Right, and you've got, is this the hoodie?
Yep, this is the hoodie I'm wearing at the moment.
And obviously you were pleased at that. Did that give you a little bit of an uplift to continue dog training?
Yeah, it definitely gave me a bit more motivation to get a little bit more involved into dog training.
Dog training classes are quite complex in all the interactions, and everybody wants to focus on their dog. And with all the different breeds and different standards and people's expectations, that will keep your mum and dad really busy instructing in that class. Are there times that they've allowed you to instruct, and if they have, how do you go about that?
So obviously I've been watching the class take place before I've instructed normally, so I can look at the class and get a good idea of any dogs which have disagreements between them. I can look at breed specifics across dogs, so I can assess how I can take the class. And normally, due to the fact that I talk to people during class, I form quite a good rapport between me and the handler of the dog, so I can understand people's standards, differences, etc. So normally I would work towards the majority's standards and incorporate other people's standards into the exercises which I'll do. So if I was, for example, taking heel work, I was instructing on heel work, and some people were doing more complex heel work, some people just wanted their dog walking to their heel. So I'd have it as a basic level across the class that people can get their dog into a heel, and I would instruct further on for people who wanted more advanced technique. So there will be people in classes with a more fixed view, but I'd always consider myself as always having a very open mind at dog training in general. I don't like to fixate myself, because I believe you should take different people's ideas, and that's how you create a better ethos across your training. So I'd always consider someone else's ideas. If I, for example, had seen this idea in previous trainers, etc., and I'd noticed it hadn't worked, I'd ask them if they wanted to incorporate a different training method, and if they didn't, I'll tell them they're perfectly fine to use their own methods.
Since you've been doing this, because you're still quite young, can you give me some examples of where, when you've been instructing people, you've learned something that you didn't know before as an instructor? Because a good instructor is always learning. So when you're training some people with certain breeds, can you give me one example that stands out where when you were instructing you learned something?
There is a small Dachshund in our class, his name's Stanley, and it could always struggle with a stay. It could never stay for more than a second, and as the owner walked away, it would get up and start barking and run towards them. But it always had a very good impulse control, and in the end they put the dog into a sit, would place a treat in front of it and tell it to leave the treat, and the dog would sit there and focus on the treat, and instead, so the owner could remove themselves from the dog, and the dog would be too fixated on the treat to worry about the owner leaving the dog. I'm always looking at different options. Like I said, I like to stay very open-minded. However, since I've had such a strong passion for dogs since such a young age, I can't really see myself in another field of work.
At this point?
At this point in time.
So, your own dog, your little Rottweiler bitch who's been playing with my dog today in the garden, what standard of training are you at with her now?
At the moment, I've focused on social with her because of her breed, etc. I'm always focused on making sure she can deal with life in every situation that she could be put under. Obedience was less important to me than the social side and having a strong bond with her.
So, give me an example of the socialisation you've applied to her.
So socialisation, we go on little social walks. We have our normal exercise walks, and we also, where I live, we have a small high street area, and we like to go along there, and it's not a busy enough road where it could scare her or cause any sort of disruption, but it's just enough where we can sit down on the bench outside the baker's and she can watch people go past, dogs go past, cars go past, and the entire time it's all a very positive association to everything around her.
And when you allow her to interact with dogs for canine socialisation, do you manage that with a certain amount of control, or do you just let her do as she wants?
I would always control any situation, especially with a dog I do not know. If I didn't see a dog I don't know, it would never be more than a 3-second interaction, and immediately it would end, and I would probably end up continuing on with our walk.
Right, so you basically assess each dog as it comes along because you want to maintain her good temperament.
Yep.
Now, I've seen her temperament, she's got a lovely temperament, and she certainly likes dogs, and she likes playing, and she's got a very nice balanced temperament at the moment. Would you like another dog in the future, or you just want to manage this one for the moment?
At the moment, I feel like I need to put all my effort into one dog before I could continue on to get another dog.
What do you do with her in the class situation? Does she join the training in the class for more socialisation?
She does. She will do almost every single class that my parents hold. She might only do 10 minutes of each class, but to me I'd rather her do 3 classes for 10 minutes of each class where she works around different dogs and different people in different situations with different exercises at different levels, so she gets a more balanced, outgoing training.
All right. Stanley, thank you very much for talking to me today. Being the youngest person of all the dog trainers, thank you for coming.
No problem, thank you for having me here.